Richard, what's the plan for today?
We're headed out to Wormslow and got some questions.
The guy that was next door to me on the show field at Hilton Head had a 1905 Packard, and I saw he was from New Hampshire, and I asked him if he was a native New Englander, and he said no. Anyway, we got talking. He said, "Oh, I know that car. In fact, I almost bought it from Fuzzy, 10 years ago, but he wanted too much money, and so he says, I know the guy who redid it, and I watched it being redone." So,
Wow.
strange,
So how long?
It was meant to be back here. That's right.
How long did it take him to restore?
I don't know. The guy, but Fuzzy said that he did a lap of the Michigan Mile at 70. I'm sure it'll go that fast because I mean, third gear is really tall, and I hadn't gotten it anywhere
I
near.
can't imagine what 70 in that must feel like.
And actually, driving wouldn't be so bad because you can hold on the steering wheel.
Right.
How about the guy on the other side?
Oh, no.
Yeah, the engineer.
Yeah, what's that?
What does he hang on?
Well, you know, a lot of those cars, in fact, it may have had a handle behind the driver's seat so that the guy in the passenger seat or in the mechanic seat can reach over and hold onto a handle.
Yeah,
With his
the engineer didn't have a chance, did he? Oh, here we go. We got somebody loading in.
You actually have it here in
There you go. There's De Palma getting on his ride. Number 33.
Out there about 10 o'clock. Yeah, generally stays there.
Hey, better put them goggles down. It's muddy out there today. There you go. Look more authentic now. There you go. Cool. There you go. There's De Palma sitting there right now.
No, President's List is better than Game's List.
You just showed me all the straight. Well, okay.
Finished up with a 90.40 grade average. Yeah.
How comfortable is that baby?
Only in college do I get a.
Not good when you got long legs. Huh? How about that? I'm shooting a video of that.
We graduated high school.
So not a lot of leg room, huh?
Yep, that's right.
Once you got to move a pedal or two, you better jack up your leg a little bit. Huh? Not a lot of leg room. I guess a 50-mile run might be a long ride. Huh?
Oh yeah, well, and
On the racetrack, how long was the distance? 15 miles?
in the race, the track was
I know it ran.
77 miles.
Okay, okay, it continued when it
Yeah,
kept going all day, like.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, I know the route. Well, cool. Good to know. Good to know. So they kept riding the route.
Did you drive it?
Did I?
In 1908, sure he did. Look at his outfit. Look at his clothing.
I will drive it. I'd be happy to.
If he was living in 1908,
I don't believe that that's part of the.
yeah. Well, you can recreate it. I'm a ghost guide, so
Oh, good.
play it up. Enjoy it. That was an awesome car. That was an awesome ride. Now, what is that? Is that an Oldsmobile? Because I know they have Volvos, Oldsmobiles,
I gotta
Mercer,
get my golf cart. Okay, let's
and there was another type car. Oh, it tells you the kind up there.
Temperature gauge on the
Oh, yeah.
Frank Jr. over there.
Yeah, he was talking about the car. He said he almost bought it. He said some guy named Fuzzy owned it.
I didn't say it was at Pebble Beach.
Okay, Pebble Beach.
Somebody went to Pebble Beach. Just got between.
That's when I walked up, he was talking about that. It must be an Oldsmobile. Maybe that'll tell us. Maybe it'll have the name. All right. Okay. All right. Okay.
That's a beautiful horn.
Yeah, I was trying to see if it had the name brand of the car on. I'm gonna ask Dale.
Manufacturer of the gauge.
I was gonna ask Dale whether it was an Oldsmobile or not. I don't know. Thank you, man.
Thank you for tuning in to Fantasy or Prehistory with Joe Lyon Layden and Richard Hodges. If you'd like to see more of our adventures into the beautiful sights and historic places of Savannah, Georgia and the Southeast, please subscribe. We also release new video reviews of speculative fiction, books, and films, as well as new music every Thursday, and sometimes several other days each week. If you enjoyed the music that you heard on this video, it's by The Looters Review featuring Dr. Dan Matrazzo. It's available on iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp, and anywhere else good music is sold. If you'd like to check out the official video, which was also released today, it's also down below. See you next time and hope you have a great weekend.